This Amateur Radio Roundtable is brought to you in part by ICOM America. All right. I want to say hello out there to everybody in internet land and listening in on radio shortwave on WBCQ on 5130 kilohertz. Sorry, we're a few minutes late tonight. We have our guest on from India. Ashar Farhan is on with us from India tonight to talk about the BITX 40, and we have a slight problem. He's not seeing us tonight, but we see him. So the show's going to be okay. He just won't get to see it as it's happening, and he can possibly watch it on the replay. I do see a little message, Farhan. It says internet connection problem. So I don't know if that's on my end or your end, but we're going to see what happens here. So again, welcome to everybody to the show tonight. This is Amateur Radio Roundtable. I'm Tom Medlin, W5KUB, and we're coming to you from Collierville, Tennessee tonight from the Ham Shack here. I want to thank WBCQ, Robert up at WBCQ, for getting our audio on the show tonight up there in Monticello, Maine. If you're a shortwave listener, send us an email to tom@w5kub.com. Let us know where you are and send us a signal report. Also, we'd like for you to, up on the menu on our webpage there, it says Facebook or Twitter. Click on Facebook group, and I think you will be able to join us on our Facebook group, and you can see what shows are coming up and all the neat things we're doing, and you can post information about ham radio on that website. So that group is w5kub.com. If you're not looking at the website now, just go to w5kub.com on Facebook group, and you can join that. Okay, starting to get a few issues here. Someone said the audio is a little out of sync, but we're going to run with it right here. Everything's looking pretty good, so we're going to see what's happening here. Let's see. I've already talked about Facebook. Hey, I see Katie Allen, WY7YL, is back with us tonight. She's in the chat room. Everybody say hello to Katie, and everybody say hello to Lord Robert up there at WBCQ in Monticello, Maine. You know, we've been working on a little project the past month, the BITX 40. We discovered this thing, and we all really got a lot of interest going here on the show. And, you know, the BITX 40 has been around for 10 or 12 years, and I think Farhan will tell us more about that in a minute. But it's been around a long time, and we're just now discovering it. But it's an exciting little radio, and I know many people on our viewers on our webcast here are ordering or have already ordered that radio. I ordered me a second one yesterday. I'm getting one of the new ones with the Radio Uno or whatever it's called. So let me see if I can bring Farhan in here, VU2ESE, all the way from India. Let me get the right mouse. How you doing, Farhan?
Hello. Hi, Tom, and a very good morning to you from India. It's lovely to be on the show. I've been following W5KUB newscasts for some time now, and it's a real pleasure to be here today.
Well, we're so glad to have you, and so glad that you were able to find a time you could join us. I know it's a little early over there. You might have had to get up early to join the show. We've got another friend in India that's on here every night, Jolty. Do you know Jolty? VU3,
course, yes.
VU3BGI, I think it's called.
Right. Yeah. Jyoti and I do catch up once in a while.
Yeah, okay. Well, he's on here with us every night. So, okay. Well, hey, man, I don't know where to start. First of all, why don't you just tell us where the BITX 40 came from? And we got a lot of questions for you tonight. We can open the phone lines. I've got questions on email.
Okay.
I think we need about 5 or 6 hours, probably, but let's try to do it in about an hour or so, okay? So how did this get started?
Yeah. Okay, very briefly speaking, BITX is really the child of a fabulous book which came out probably around year 2000 or 2002, I would guess, called the Experimental Methods in RF Design, which was co-authored by Wes Hayward, W7ZOI, Bob Larkin, and Rick Campbell, Kilo Kilo 7 Bravo, W7 Papa America United. So now this book really, triggered a lot of home brewing all over again around the world, and I received my copy as well. And I was really excited to see this book. I mean, it's not a cookie cutter, really. It speaks of a fairly deep philosophy of home brewing and what home brewing is all about, and it speaks about personal science that probably down the show we'll get to. But most of the BITX was actually designed once I had an initial run through this book from Stockholm to Hyderabad, and when I landed here. Can you still hear me?
I can. I think we're having just a little bit of internet problem. There's a message up that's saying internet connection problem. Tell you what, let's do. Let me just call you right back, okay? A lot of times that clears it right up. I'm going to call you right back. All right. Well, okay, we're back.
Yeah. So as I was saying, most of the VITX was actually designed or laid out on a flight, longish flight from Stockholm to India. And over the next 3 days, the entire design came together. And I still remember that my first contact was VU2 MES Masood. I think he was in Ooty around that time. So a lot of people do not realize that it essentially is looking over, climbing over shoulders of giants, so to say, that a lot of this work has already been done earlier, and you basically add the last 5% to it and make that into a design. The idea of bidirectional transceiver is very alluring, and there have been attempts earlier. I do not know who this radio ham was, but the old timers would remember that there used to be an SSB handbook published by ARRL back in the 70s, up to the 70s, I would guess, which had a bidirectional transceiver. And in India, there's been a very famous home brewer who just passed away a couple of years ago called VU2 Nancy Radio, Raju. He had actually done 2 bidirectional transceivers in his own time. So I was quite fascinated with the idea of, a receiver and a transmitter being almost the same thing, except that the direction of the signal that, transits through the equipment is in reverse. And there were a couple of things which, I wanted to get done in this particular design. One of them was to keep the design extremely simple. So tried cutting down as much of inductors and transformers as was possible without, making the design really bad. The other was to be able to use just about any equipment that you could, or other components that you could lay your hands on. So, and this was a requirement in those days in India because ECOM hadn't developed. We needed to, just get by with whatever junk we could scrounge around for. So that was the second thing that I was trying to achieve here. And the third thing, of course, was that it shouldn't have too many controls to fiddle with and to get the design going quickly. So, for instance, the original BITX did not use toroids of the normal sense, but we improvised on these what in India is called a tap washer. So it's essentially the nylon, toroidal stuff which goes into a faucet, into a water faucet.
Oh, okay.
So, and it's pretty interesting. It's the queue. Later on, we discovered was actually quite bad. The queue was about less than 100 when W7ZOI did a study of these material, but it sort of worked, you know. And the original design was actually for 20 meters. It was not for 40 meters. 40 meters is a recent development of the original design.
All right. Now you'd mentioned Rahu, I think earlier. Did I pronounce that right? Is that I see a Rahu VU3WJM has joined us.
Oh, hi Rahul, if you're listening in, I should mention that, you know, the couple of hams who pitched in with the design effort once the original was out, or the initial design was out. What happened was that Hans Summer, Golf Zero United Papa Lima, he started a Yahoo group, which has now grown to, you know, I don't know how many thousands of people are there on the group for BITX. And Rahul laid out a printed circuit board for the transceiver. And that actually made it much easier for a lot of people to get on and start building this. Because I always build my homebrews the ugly way, which is, you know, you just take a copper clad board and, you know, you just start soldering things on top of the board. And I had put out a PCB, but, you know, it was sort of a all right PCB. It wasn't layout a printed circuit board. Once Rahul's printed circuit board came out, then, you know, it really picked up. And there is one important aspect to the BITX that a lot of people you know, it was new for a lot of people. That was that we put this out in open source, the entire design of the transceiver. So it helped a lot of people to be asking, you know, to more. Tom?
Yeah, Farhan, the last 15 seconds, we're starting to get a very bad internet connection with you. The message just went away. Maybe it has cleared up. So, interesting story. Please continue. Can you hear me? Yeah.
No, I was saying that one really important thing about BITX, which has not got much to do with the design itself, is that it was the first radio to be put out in open source, which essentially meant that anybody could take this design without asking anybody else and modify it whichever way they would like to, and then publish those designs back. So that actually opened up the BITX original design to a lot of experimentation.
Okay. And hey, it's really cool. You were mentioning to me you were using those washers like that go in faucets earlier. You know, hams build things with anything they have, right? Okay.
Wait, Tom,
Are you hearing?
I couldn't hear your last.
Yeah, I was just saying it was interesting how you were talking about building the coils using the washers, the nylon washers out of faucets. Yeah, our internet connection to you is not great right now. Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think people.
Is there, we need a Skype expert. Is there a way on Skype to drop the bandwidth down? Does anybody know? Is there a option or something? I don't know any way to do it. Most part, you're doing really well, Farhan.
Okay. Let me just check. Okay. So anyhow, I was just about wrapping up my comments about the fact that it is in open source. So, a number of people do acknowledge where the original design came from, but there is no need to get back to permissions to extend the design, or to start playing around with it, or to turn out your own kits based on the BITX design.
Okay, so you started out really the BITX was the BITX 20, and why did you move to the 40?
The reason why we moved to 40 is actually very unusual, which was that about 2 years ago, the annual Ham Fest of India was being hosted by my local club here in Hyderabad. And for that, we thought that we would toss in a free printed circuit board of the BITX into the delegates kit, which we did. And at that time, 40 meters is actually pretty popular in India specifically, and especially for the local rack units. So we thought that it might be a good idea to move it to 40 meters to do that, which is what I did. But very few people actually, assembled it. All there are a lot of those. So a lot of people, and in India, one of the key drivers for homegrown transceiver is the very itself. It costs about at least $1,000 to procure a good transceiver, whereas ITX can be for about $10. So a lot of people find it far easier to just gather their own components and assemble the ITX. Which is why we actually moved to 40 meters, so that the local range.
All right, Ron. Let's just try it without your video for a second.
Okay, I don't know if
it sounds better, and I do have your picture. Moment there. Okay. All right. Let's try that for a while. We've got your still picture up, and let's go back and see how this works now. But we are getting a message on Skype that there's a connection problem. They're trying to reestablish the connection, but that's not going to happen tonight, I don't think.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a lot of questions. When I talked to you, I think 2 days ago, I asked you a lot of questions, and I'm getting questions in here tonight, even on email that I'll bring up here in a minute. We got a lot of questions for you. So tell us a little about, real quick, let's jump into the assembly. How do you make these and, get them shipped out? Have you got a big company that does this for you?
No, hardly any. In fact, it's just it started out as a ragtag group of people we quickly put together to get this going. And as I said that the genesis of the BITX 40 board was actually elsewhere, which essentially started out first as just a blank PCB which we gave out for free. And then what happened was that a lot of people were not able to assemble it. So about last year, around this time in January of last year, I organized a workshop, a day-long workshop to get people to assemble the board. And then I realized that even that was problematic because a day is not enough. And one assumes that people have a lot of skills like being able to do toroids, trifilar windings, etc. Then we thought that we'd turn out about 100 boards for the local hams, which would be assembled. And at that time, I started looking around for anyone to assemble them. And then we discovered that in Hyderabad, we had a small hub of manufacturing electronic equipment, especially televisions and some stuff for the government, etc. and that business had actually come to a halt about 10 years ago. The reason was that most of the Hyderabad's economy moved from hardware to software. Now we have Facebook, Google, Microsoft, a lot of these companies which have established themselves here. So the economy actually shifted elsewhere, which left a lot of these women who worked here unemployed. So we started talking to some of them, and we figured that these were actually ideally suited to assemble these boards. So we started giving them the components from the local market and got the things assembled. But what happened even with that was that for the through-hole components, manually placing the components were leading to a lot of errors and misplaced components, swapped around diodes, etc. And of course, the bigger problem was with the trifiller windings, which are actually quite complicated. It can confuse even the best of the builders. So finally, now what has emerged is that there's a very small shop or a factory which assembles surface mounted boards on a pick and place machine. So we get the pick and place parts assembled there. Then there is one group of 4 or 5 women who turn out the coils for us. These are hand-wound coils on toroids, which we get from W8DIZ. And these coils and the other through-hole components are then put together by a second bunch of workers, and then finally they are tested by a fairly, I should say she's a veteran of testing. She's been testing boards for the last 30-40 years of various electronic manufacturers. So she actually works either out of her home or here out of the cellar. In fact, she might walk in during our during this show because she works out of the same room that I'm sitting in here now.
Okay.
So now what happens is that we have placed these people in place. Of course, we get all our components from various parts. Most of the components are locally bought, but we have, for example, the toroids coming in from the US. We have the SI5351 and the Arduino Nano, etc., coming in from Mouser. I actually, at this time, once these things got rolling, then my business colleague and some of my businesses, Ehsan, I spoke to him and I said, if we could sort of quickly put something together which would allow us to ship these out. So he actually has volunteered to help us with the shipments, etc. And he had a small company which was actually looking at doing e-com with groceries, So we just use the infrastructure of that company to start doing the fulfillments, which is why, hf6.com actually ships from a company called Paradigm Ecom, because that company was never really meant to ship out radio boards. But that's what, we're using them to do that now.
So, Farhan, let me ask you a question. And I know you went up on your price to $59, but that includes the Arduino, the LCD, the SI5351, and you can't even buy those parts, those additional parts for that extra amount of money. But are you guys making any money on these radios? Or are you breaking even? You can't be making too much.
Tom, it's too early to say that we would be making any money, frankly speaking, because we've been sort of, caught in the storm. We never expected this much of a response. So what's happening is that whatever, money we get from sales, we immediately pump it into buying more components, etc. And what's emerging now is that it takes a 2-month cycle to from the time you start buying components to the time that you start shipping out boards. So we do not really know. We know that both Ehsan and I, and more particularly I, have actually been chasing this for a while, and we've put in some money. We haven't really, one of these days we have to sit down and figure out how much, is cash on hand, which we've sort of set aside. But our idea is to generate enough amount of cash reserves which we could keep deploying to produce more and more boards. But at this time we haven't drawn any profits at all. We don't even know what the profits will look like. Probably it'll take another month or two for us to sit down and settle down and figure out, because all the time we are buying more components from the money that we are getting from the previous sale. So it's sort of a thing which is sort of feeding on itself. Probably we'll know in a couple of months' time, but I think that there might be a little bit of money left over, and then probably by March or April, and then we'll decide what to do with the money, because this was never really started out as a business, so to speak.
Yeah. So my understanding is that the radios are kind of built in different places. The little surface mount components, you've got a company that does the wave soldering and puts those components on with a machine. And then I think you have the women that put the discrete components like the capacitors and the coils. They put that on, and do they solder those in?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So the company which does the pick and place, it's called Veratronics. It's a very small company. It's so small that the owner himself actually has a day job somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
They are actually, again, just a bunch of I think about 7 or 8 women, and there's an old retired person who has worked in the defense sector, who manages the small manufacturing unit. So they are one group. There's another group which does the coils together, and there is Uma, who does the testing. So we have it actually spread across the city in 3 or 4 places, and usually it's in the night time that we turn our attention to this. So we drive around the city because it's easier without the traffic, post our dinner, and pick up these things from various parts and then line them up and put them into boxes and be ready to ship them out the next morning. We have got somebody on a part-time basis who comes and picks up these boxes and takes them to the Indian Post and posts them out, which is actually, even posting is a bit of a challenge, because how do you post a thing which costs, whatever, let's say $59 reliably across the world?
Yeah.
We did not want to have a sticker shock here saying, okay, it's $59, let's say $50 for the board, but the postage might cost you $30 if you send it through courier. So it actually goes through the good old postal system.
Well, mine got here pretty fast. I don't remember how long. I just placed the order, and I went on vacation and came back, and it showed up. Perfect. It really looks great. I'm going to throw a picture of the board up on the screen right there. There's a picture of I'll call it your phase. Well, not really phase 1, but this is the board that you were selling maybe 1 month or 2 months ago, and it shows. This is off your page. It shows the components like the volume control, the tuning control, the mic, how to wire them in, and it's a beautifully made radio, and it's just nice, and I'm really impressed with it.
There are a couple of things I'd like to point out about the printed circuit board itself.
Okay.
Now, if you actually look at the circuit, which is there on hf6.com/ I think it's called circuit description.html or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a replication of exactly the same circuit 6 times over of the RF amplifier. Okay.
Now, I can pull that up on here right now and put it on the screen.
Yeah.
So let me switch cameras. There we go. I've got your page up. Is there any particular place to go to?
Yeah. So if you could actually go to the circuit description and
Yeah.
put on the circuit diagram itself.
Yeah, I'm on circuit description. I see the entire diagram.
Yeah, so you could actually see the 6 amplifiers right up on the top, right? From top left to right, there is the 2 rows of amplifiers facing 2 directions for the bidirectional.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's three
right?
and
No.
3 below them.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you see that all these are exactly the same circuit, so if you've actually understood one amplifier, you would understand all the six amplifiers and the entire block would be clear to you. And if you actually switch back to the printed circuit board, you would see that it's also laid out exactly in the same manner. So there's a one-to-one correspondence between the circuit diagram and the PCB layout.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So the idea is that it's easy for people to follow the printed circuit board by just looking at the circuit diagram itself.
Yeah, okay. And you also have a very nice video on YouTube that shows how to troubleshoot it with nothing more than a screwdriver touching points as you go through it and listen for noise.
It's like this that I think a great part of our hobby, which people implicitly understand but do not talk about, is to be able to measure and test. I think that's really the key to understanding of a radio. And any testing is better than no testing. So over a period of testing the boards ourselves here, we evolved this procedure to test the BITX receiver with nothing but a piece of wire to be used as a noise generator, which you could touch at various points in the board. But it's not limited to BITX. One could actually test any receiver with just that wire and using that technique.
So is this, it's built with bidirectional amplifiers. Is that kind of a new concept in ham radio?
No, not really at all. Not really at all. In fact, the EMRFD, the book that I had referred to earlier in the show today, has actually quite a few very interesting bidirectional amplifiers described. So it's here. Here it's just two amplifiers strapped, back to back, and you power one up and the other, and power down the other to determine which direction the signal is amplified on. So it's not new. Bidirectional amplifiers have been used. Bidirectional transceivers too have been made. But the earlier transceivers were a little more difficult to make because there were far more wires to wind. Until it struck me that there's no need to really go for transformers and inductors in an RF amplifier unless you want actually fairly high power handling capability.
Mm-hmm.
So the key difference between the BITX and the other bidirectional amplifiers is that transceivers is that we do not use too many coils, which makes it much easier to build this, and it's also much more compact as a physical layout.
Yeah, I've noticed it's very simple layout. As you said, not many coils. There's really no adjustments to really make other than setting the PA bias and maybe the carrier balance. But it's so simple, but it works and it sounds very good.
The key thing to a good sounding receiver more than a transceiver is really the local oscillator. The lower the phase noise of a local oscillator, the cleaner is the receiver. I mean, I would imagine that that's the most important part of a receiver design. But that apart, it's also how much gain you put in various parts of the receiver, and actually you should shoot for the least gain possible at each stage, just enough to tide it over to the next stage. I mean, this is all in retrospect, but I would imagine that we just got lucky here with the BITX design because it has just the right amount of gain at every point. In fact, for 40 meters, my personal hunch is that the gain on the 40 meter version is actually too much for 40 meters. And one could have even done away with the RF amplifier between the band pass filter and the first mixer. But I just wanted to keep the BITX classic design as is, so that it could be adopted to the higher bands too. But if anyone wants to try out a mod, one of the mods to try out is to just bypass the entire RF amplifier.
I know on 40 on mine, it's very loud. even with the volume turned all the way down, some signals are very, very loud still.
Yeah, there's actually one simple mod which you could do, which is to remove the capacitor between pin 1 and 8 of the LM386.
Okay,
And that
that'll
actually
reduce
cuts down.
the the gain, I guess, of the
Right, yeah.
LM386. Okay, cool. Might try that. So, man, there's a lot of people wanting to know, what about 6 meters? What about multi-band? I mean, this radio will just about run on any band, right? You just have to put the right tune coil in there, tune network.
Absolutely. For instance, if you already have some DDS, the newer boards actually ship with a DDS board. But if you could, just keep changing the VFO to a different frequency, and then there are two sets of coils to be changed. One is the band pass filter, and the other is the low pass filter. So if these two could be changed, this can be adapted to just about any band. I would even, think that it could go all the way up to 2 meters if the RF amplifier transistors were replaced by something which works well into the VHF range. But for that, the lineup itself is pretty much adaptable to anything from 160 meters to 2 meters.
Farhan, do you have any previous specs for the inductance values or anything for people wanting to experiment?
Well, I don't right way, but what I've seen too is that, for example, a band pass filter is a new topology, and I don't know how many of us have gone to Martin's site, Papa Alpha 3 Alpha Kilo Echo, I think is his call sign. Let me just confirm that. Yeah. So PA3AKE has designed band pass filters of exactly this topology for various bands, and one could just pick up those values and plug them in here. His work is really phenomenal with high performance front ends for receivers, and it's a site that I keep going back to pick up more and more hints and information from. But he has actually designed these band pass filters which could be adopted for the BITX very easily.
And I would guess with the BITX 20 out there, that's already established the values for 20 meters. Someone probably could pull that off that same diagram.
Well, yes and no. What's happened is that this topology has changed now. If you actually look at this band pass filter, it's series tuned rather than parallelly tuned band pass filter.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And it looks a little more like a low pass filter with rather than a high pass filter, which means that the capacitors are between the ground and the hot ends, and the coils are actually horizontal, right? I mean, in the sense that they from one pole to another. So one could do it, but it would not look nice on the PCB to solder back as the BITX original band pass filter. So it's probably easier to just, for instance, change the inductor values and keep the capacitors the same and get it going on 20. There's just one caveat here which I'd like to point out to, which is that we had to use a 12 megahertz IF to get enough swing on a VFO at 5 megahertz. For instance, if we had kept it to the original IF of 10 megahertz, then our VFO for 7 would be actually working around 3 megahertz. And at 3 megahertz, to get a swing of 200 kilohertz on a varactor was a challenge, which is why we had to move the IF to 12 so that the VFO could be operating at a higher frequency to get enough, enough of swing.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So at 12 megahertz is pretty close to 14 megahertz, right?
Yeah.
And you wouldn't want the IF breakthrough. So what you would probably have to do is, 20 meters, you would have to use a band pass filter, which is more aggressive in cutting out the 12 megahertz than 3 poles would do, or probably 2 poles of the BITX 20 would do. So it would require a little bit of tweaking around. I haven't done it myself. Probably this month I shall do a 20 meters bandpass filter. But actually, there is another simpler way to get to multi-band, which is basically use this BITX as the backend and add another diode mixer. Okay, first is to get this going instead of at 40 meters to, let's say, get it going at 6 meters, as you were saying, at 50 megahertz, and then use that as the IF backend by adding another mixer which converts everything from 0 to 30 to 50 megahertz. So that would give you general coverage receiving on actually transceiving on BITX.
Yeah.
And given that the SI5351, which is what most of the people are using now, from Hans QRP Labs as well as from HF6, that's actually capable of generating all these frequencies without anything more to be added to it.
Okay. Hey, let's see. It's I got a lot of questions here. Let me just throw some questions out. I know we're going all different directions, but let's just talk here. We got a lot of people that are interested in this. Ron, PA3FAT, who's been a great help with us in working on the Arduino code when we built our first ones here. He and I both noticed there seems to be a delay on the PTT switching. When he presses it, he hears some feedback or a buzz or something, and just wondered if that's something you are aware of.
Yeah, the advantage of having an open source design is that all the bugs are out there.
Yeah.
And this has been a long-standing bug of the BITX, and this actually now finally I figured out comes from the audio preamplifier.
Okay.
So if you actually go back to the circuit and look at the audio preamplifier, there is a fairly fat bypass capacitor on the preamplifier, and when you switch from receive to transmit, the capacitor still holds charge, and it takes a little while for that charge to for the charge on the capacitor to entirely discharge. So the audio preamplifier actually of the receive remains on for the initial burst of the transmit.
Okay.
And that takes a little while to discharge, and that sort of self-oscillates for about a fraction of a second. So it sort of gives you a squeal at times in some of the bits.
Yeah. Maybe some type diode switching or something could speed that up,
or to just short out the capacitor quickly. Put a 2N7000 or probably another NPN transistor between the capacitor's hot end and the ground, and feed it from the transmit line so that on transmit it's immediately shorted down and the audio oscillations are prevented. It actually took me all of probably 10-11 years to figure out where this was coming in from.
That long, huh?
That's probably the nature of this beast.
Yeah.
That it's a small, extremely primitive in a lot of ways, transceiver that is it's simple. Even after 10 to 11 years, you keep discovering one thing or the other about it.
Oh, yeah. All right, so let me ask you another question. We've hooked up a little S meter using the LCD and built a little amplifier for the S meter, and we're taking that off the volume control, off the high side of the volume control. Is there a better place to try to pick off an S meter reading?
I think that would be the best place to do it. Not just that, but if you're already picking the audio off there, and I would imagine that you're doing your calculations of the peak envelope power, etc., in the software rather than putting a diode there. That actually opens it up to a lot of other interesting things. For example, I've seen a CW decoder flying around the net. There is an RTTY decoder. I mean, all that's open to you if you just tap the audio off the hot end of the volume control. I'm really looking forward to somebody putting up a CW decoder to the BITX of that place. I mean, that's a very interesting place And once you have an S meter reading going on, you could probably loop it back and make that control an attenuator somewhere in the signal line and convert that into an extremely high performance automatic gain control system as well.
Yeah, and I do see on your hacks page that there's an AGC system that someone added. If anybody would like to add that, we're looking at adding the CW to this, and I guess there's two ways that you can add CW to this. Maybe unbalanced balance modulator or something, or put a tone in. A audio tone into the mic jack. I guess both have some problems. The easiest way, I guess, is going to be putting a tone in the sideband, as long as we don't have too many harmonics. You got any thoughts about that?
Yeah, the only unfortunate part of the BITX design here is that we do not have the audio amplifier switched on all the time. The audio amplifier is cut off when you switch to transmit. As a result, putting a side tone through the audio amplifier is no longer an option. So when you inject the tone into the mic, you do not hear the side tone through the same speaker.
Right.
So you'll have to probably, put up a parallel audio amplifier as well and inject the tone into the speaker line. But that apart, I think it's a good idea. I've been doing that for a while now. That's how. I mean, CW is my preferred DXing mode, and SSB is what I do for ActU. So the thing to watch out for, however, is that you should put in a pure sine wave tone into it rather than a square wave which the Arduino generates automatically. So
Right.
that has to go through an RC filter of, resistors and 3 capacitors.
I built that filter. I built that filter the other day using 1K resistors and 0.1 capacitors.
Right.
Someone mentioned that maybe 1800 ohms would be closer to the right value, but I'm looking at it on a dual scope, and I see the square wave, and that 3-section filter doesn't quite make it a sine wave for me. It's more of a triangle wave.
That's true. At least a triangular wave has far less harmonic content than a square wave does. So the problem with the square wave is that let's imagine that if it's an 800 hertz square wave, the third harmonic, which is going to be at 2.4 kilohertz, would still be fairly strong through the crystal filter, and you wouldn't want that. But with a triangular wave, that actually comes down substantially. It's almost down by about 30 dB or so.
Oh, okay, so that's good. Hey, just another question. Doug, K8QDP, is asking, is the Arduino Sketch on the kit publicly available? The Sketch, I guess it's on your page, right? The HFSIGs, hfsigs.com.
The Sketch is actually under the GPL license, and it's actually available on this website, which is used by a lot of open source projects called GitHub. So Golf India Tango Hotel United Bravo, github.com. So if you just go to github.com/afarhan, you will see a BITX40.
That's slash A Farhan?
Yeah, /afarhan/BITX40. And I have actually extensively documented this sketch there. So even people who are just starting out on the Arduino will know what's going on with the source code.
Okay, there. Great. And Doug also asked, can it be put into upper sideband to accommodate data modes? I would imagine Arduino can be programmed to put it in upper sideband, right?
There are many ways to skin this cat too. So one way to do that is on the PCB you would see that there is a place to put up an inductor in series with the BFO crystal to pull it down. So that's one way to get to USB. The other way is basically to flip the VFO to the higher side of the IF, and that would invert the sideband. So for instance, if you're going to 20 meters, instead of keeping your VFO at 2 megahertz, that's 12 plus 2 is equal to 14. If you went to 26 megahertz, it would automatically generate upper sideband at 14 megahertz from 12 megahertz lower sideband signal,
Okay.
which the
Okay.
IF system produces. So there are actually various ways to do this.
Okay. And hey, we're all learning and sharing this information. I know when we first put our Arduino VFO together, before you came out with yours, we thought we had everything right, but as we tuned, I mean, the VFO was tuning the 4.8 to 5, and it was tuning up the, well, I thought it was tuning up the band from 7 to 7.3, but it was actually tuning backwards, and I don't know how that happened. But Ron was able to fix that. Even though the VFO looked like it was going the right direction, it was tuning the band backwards.
Yeah, that's a surprise with a VFO. So essentially, I mean, if you just do a calculation in your mind, you would figure out why that's happening. So at 5 megahertz with 12 megahertz IF, it's 12 minus 5, which gives you 7, right? So you're
Right.
subtracting the VFO from the IF frequency. And as the VFO goes up, you're subtracting more and more from the IF
Oh yeah,
frequency, which
yeah,
essentially
yeah,
means that the signal is going lower and lower down,
yeah. Okay.
right? So that's a little bit of surprise, but people who've put in the DDS also had another surprise there, which is that the IF frequency was not actually 12, but it was down by about 1.5 to 2 kilohertz.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, this is expected because if you look at a ladder filter, any crystal ladder filter, you can see that it actually looks more like a low pass filter again, which is there are capacitors from ground to up, and there are crystals between those capacitors. It looks very much like a low pass filter, except that in place of the inductor, you have a crystal filter. Sorry, a crystal there. So the ladder filter is actually very is akin to a band pass filter, but the skirt is much sharper on the upper side of the skirt. Okay, and the crystal frequency is actually the cutoff frequency of that low pass configuration. So your band pass would be below 12 megahertz, and the skirt would lie somewhere at exact 12 megahertz. So it's not centered on 12 megahertz, but it is centered to the lower sideband from the 12 megahertz, if you know what I mean.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Which is why the IF, when you're calculating, is to be set at about 11.9975 or 11.998 or 85. So that's one thing which you need to take into consideration while programming your DDS chips to work with the VITX.
So there's a question in the chat room. Any plans on offering an optional case? I know you're trying to hold the cost down.
Well, it's a big challenge. In fact, there is a very nice case being manufactured in India for this by VU2 POP, Papa Oscar Papa.
Okay, so there's one out there. You just need to know where to go to get it, right?
Well, he's trying to figure out how to get it shipped because the case itself is about a kg. It's about 1 kilo, almost about 2 pounds in weight, and the cost of shipping it is actually working out to be more expensive than the cost of the case itself.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about it is, I mean, I'm a home brewer from 50 years ago, and I've always built a lot of stuff, and I never throw anything away. In fact, I'm going to put a picture up. Here's a picture of my BITX 40. It's built in a DirecTV satellite receiver box. Now, I didn't throw these satellite receiver boxes away, but I took the insides out, and it made a perfect box to mount the LCD on, and all the switches and different things, and it's a nice size. So, you can find you a plastic box, you can find you a metal box, you can put it just about in anything.
Wow, that's really nice. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. It's a pretty neat little looking box. Do you also have a power supply or something built into it?
Well, I tell you, I I know I didn't build a power supply into it. I did put some extra filtering in there in a 7812 regulator, but I put the power jack on the back, and I'm using just a standard 12 volt power pack, a 3 amp 12 volt power pack. And then I've got hundreds of power packs around here, and I have one. The voltage on a laptop is about 19 volts. 19 volts at 4.4 amps, and I thought, well, that might be a good supply. So I put me a plug on it and plugged it in, and hey, it did good. Now I'm sure that has some type of regulation, but what I planned to do there was come in 19 volts, regulate it to 12 volts for my Arduino and the receiver, and then take the the non-regulated, non-7812 side and take that 19 volts and send it to the transmitter. And I did. And here's a picture. Let me put this picture up. Here's a picture of two tests I did with it. And you're probably not seeing this farhand, or you will in 30 seconds if you are watching the webcast. But this is a watt meter, a dummy load on the BITX40. And with the 12 volt power pack plugged in, I'm getting 8 watts out. That's with a CW tone key down, 8 watts out. And when I hook that 19.45 volt power supply on there, I'm getting 20 watts out. I thought, well, 20, you said you could run 25 volts, so I'm not quite going that far. But I felt the heat sink, and after a minute or two, I could tell it was going to get too warm. So for right now, I'm back to the 12 volt supply. Maybe I've got some little 1-inch fans. I might put me a little fan in there or something, to cool that final.
Well, that's a pretty good voltage wattage that you're getting out from the BITX. One needn't bother too much about the power amplifier supply's cleanliness, because what happens is that most of the signals distortions are already in place at that level on the driver stage.
Yeah.
I have used some SMPS cage type of power supplies from a company out of China called Meanwell. They're actually pretty good, and I actually have built a QRP boot with that power supply, which is actually supposed to be 24 volts, but you can crank it up to 28 volts. And that gives about 25 watts to me directly from about 2 watts input. But I use that as a separate linear amplifier, and I run my BITX down to 2 watts, between 1 to 2 watts. And at that wattage, which is about 1 to 2 watts, the BITX actually turns out a very linear, distortion-free signal. So that's actually a tip for people who are using it with boots. You should turn down the drive to the PA rather than put an attenuator between the BITX and the linear amplifier.
Yeah, I've so far most of my work has been putting it in the box here and experimenting. And the reason my box looks so bad is, like I know, as you experiment and you build and you add on, you take the soldering iron, you go in too many times, and you change stuff, and you put it back, and you change stuff, and you drill holes, and it starts to not look real pretty. But this is my prototype, and it's working great. Right. And I've ordered another one, and it's going to look pretty when I put it together. I've only made 3 contacts only with it. And my first contact, the board was laying out on my desk. It was not in a box. And I had the little bitty computer mic on there and the little bitty push to talk button that you sent with it. And my first contact was ZS6CCY in South Africa, 9,000 miles away on 40 meters. And I was really surprised that he heard me and came back to me. And I've talked to him 2 other times on 40 meters since then. So I made 3 contacts. All 3 contacts have been South Africa on it. What do you think about that? Yeah.
That's pretty good. What kind of an antenna were you using?
Well, it's a very, very sophisticated antenna. It's a it's a fan dipole for 80, 40, and 20, and it's up about 50 feet.
Oh.
Oh,
That's
man.
pretty neat. That's pretty neat.
So there's a
Yeah,
question. Are you planning a multi-band transceiver? I think we've talked about that. I don't guess you have
well,
any.
yes, I am. I am planning a multi-band transceiver, and this has been a personal itch of mine for some time.
Okay.
About 2, 3 years ago, we started this transceiver project called the Minima. I don't know if some of the viewers and listeners here have heard of this transceiver, but it's back on my own website. You could actually search for the Minima transceiver, and this would pop out on the internet. But that didn't work too well on the transmit side, surprisingly. But the receiver was really fabulous. But now, just switching back to the BITX, there is a multi-band version in the works for the BITX, which would actually go from 80 to 28 megahertz and give you full transceive as well as CW on all these modes. It's actually should say it's sort of inspired by the BITX rather than a BITX version itself. It's a dual conversion system, but a lot of people imagine that a double conversion transceiver is very complicated, but it can actually be fairly simple. In fact, there are fewer RF amplifiers in the new transceiver design than even the BITX. The BITX has 3 stages, and this only has 2 stages as it's on the bench now. So it's been working. I've been working with this transceiver for a little while. The only thing is that, before I put this out in the public domain, I'm a little circumspect because a lot of people rush in to build this stuff, and most of them do not have enough of instrumentation to fix things if they go bad. So I'd just like to, test and debug the design a bit before I put it out. But I hope that this month I would put it out on my website, and just like the BITX, it would entirely be in public domain. I'm not sure when we would be able to roll out a kit for it or a board for it, but I'm certain that very soon we'd have a very nice BITX multi-band design.
All right. Here's a question from a friend of mine, Glenn Popel, KW5GP. He wrote the ARRL book, Arduino for Ham Radio, last year, and he's finishing another book, I think, for the ARRL to publish here real soon. But he's got a question. It says, why did you use the square wave SI5351 instead of a sine wave DDS like the AD9850?
Oh, hi, Glenn. I've just ordered the book, and I hope that by 20th of Jan I'd have it in my hand. A friend might be carrying it for me. I'm looking forward to that book, really. The reason why we opted for the SI5351, actually there are 2 reasons. One is that I've been actually playing with the SI570 for a while. And I really like the chip because it's entirely spur free. There are no spurs coming out of the SI570 except for some jitter induced spurs, which are really, really low. And the SI5351 continues to do that. That's number one. The second reason for using the SI5351 really is that the frequency range is quite high. It actually goes above 200 megahertz if you'd like to push it there. And the Arduino board that we're using now, I have used it up to 200 megahertz. So that's the second reason. And the third reason, of course, is that it's got 3 oscillator outputs. So the new multiband design is actually using all the 3. So the BFO, the first oscillator and the second oscillator of the transceiver are all coming from the same SI5351. The problem really with SI5351 is that it takes a little while for the frequency to change because it's PLL based, it's not a DDS chip. So that might be a problem, and it usually is a problem. For example, if you'd like to directly modulate the DDS to generate something like FM, So that's not possible there. But but for that, we are using SI5351, and most importantly, it's a very cheap chip. I mean, it's just 60 cents now in wholesale on Mouser. So those are the reasons really why we use the SI5351.
60 cents for a 5351.
Yeah, I mean, you could go to Mouser.com and check the rate. So we've bought 1,000 of them, I think, for
Man,
about that
I
price.
think I paid $9 for mine. I thought that was a pretty good deal.
The 5351 is actually much cheaper.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah, that's the price right now.
When you said the chip now, is that the chip on the little board or just the chip itself?
No, I'm just talking about the chip as it goes onto the Arduino board itself.
Okay,
So
because the board,
that's-
the one that we bought, actually, it's on a, well, maybe it's the same thing you're talking about. It's on a little board with 3 outputs.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Is that what you're talking about? You're getting for 50 cents?
I'm just talking about the chip itself, the small SMD chip alone.
Oh, okay.
That's
Just the
yeah.
chip, not the little board
Yeah.
that it goes on.
No,
Okay.
no, not the board.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, I would pay $8.50 to have that already put on something. That would be small. All right, well, great. This is great stuff. So you said you've used the BITX up to 200 megahertz. Did I hear that right?
I've used the digital board, which now ships along with the BITX. So I have another project. It's probably on my blog, which is hfsignals.blogspot.com, called Sweeperino, which has actually a generator, which was the SI570 originally, and a power meter. It's the ZOI PUA power meter, which which is a logarithmic power detector. So it can actually plot SWRs and filters and amplifier frequency responses by sweeping across a circuit with frequency. So I've recently swapped the SI570 with the Arduino board, and we could push far beyond 200 megahertz. In fact, Hans Sommer is reporting that it goes all the way up to 280 megahertz, which is really a surprise for such a small and tiny and inexpensive chip to be doing.
Yeah, we've got someone here said he got the old board. I think he was wishing he had ordered your new Radio Uno, but is there any way he can get the extra parts to pay anything additional to upgrade to?
Yeah, that's pretty simple. He just has to drop an email to hfsignals@gmail.com. Ehsan handles that email account. It's actually HF Signals, which is HF. Let me just put this down on chat as well. So you just pay the difference, which is $14 between the old between the old board and the extra Arduino board, and that ships to them. So there is not a difference at all. The other problem is that, or rather, the other thing is that even on the new boards, we are still shipping out the VFO inductor. So for people who would like to keep it all analog, that option has not been closed. I use the analog. I just prefer the cleaner VFO of the original BITX. So I thought it might be a good idea, which is why we have tossed the original inductor into the kit as well, even for the new shipments.
Now I understand on your new, I don't know if I'm pronouncing Radio Uno or Radio Uno, or how do you say it? What do you call it?
I have no idea of how to pronounce it either. It's just a play on Arduino by swiping the R and A's places.
Yeah.
Across.
So my question. Oh man, I forgot my question. Now I was messed up on that. Oh man. Yeah. It'll come to me in a minute. This is some exciting stuff here. I'm reading the chat room, and okay, that's great that you can upgrade. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you about. The software, the code that comes with the Radio Uno, whatever you call it. it'll tune. I think it tunes 50 kilohertz segments, but when you get to the end of the pot, it adds 10 more kilohertz each time, so you can actually tune the entire band. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. That's how it works. So it's actually a very neat way of doing it. I don't know if we could, switch on the video for a bit. I could actually show you. I'm not sure whether there's anybody on the band right now.
Yeah. Go ahead and let's try it and see what happens. Maybe your picture will come back in.
Let me just show you how that works. Let's see if the video works now.
All right, we got you. I got you there.
Okay, so if you've got me there, this is. I don't know if okay.
I see it. Oh, cool. I like the holes for the speaker.
Okay, so here, if you let me just see if I can. Okay. Okay, now what I'll do is I take it all the way to the end here, and now once I hit the end of my tuning range, you see that now the frequency keeps going up, right?
Yeah.
All the way, and then I'm back here. Now I can tune this 50 kilohertz segment.
So you tune backwards. You tune backwards, but it's still going up, right?
No.
Oh,
it's going down. Now it's going down. See that?
Okay. I see it. Yeah.
So now I'm on the other side, and it's going down.
Yes.
As you can see.
Yeah.
So there I am on the India's SSB segment.
Okay. Well, it's cool that you've been able to put that function in where you can keep expanding the band and going up and covering the entire band. Yeah. Now, how far will that receiver actually go doing that function?
So let's see that. So here it's stuck at 6.9895 is the lowest end, and as it goes up 50 kilohertz, and then from 50 kilohertz onwards it starts stepping up, and it will go up to I think 7.5, and it's going up pretty fast. So it's the rate is actually pretty good.
Maybe you tilt the radio a little bit. We got a lot of glare on the display.
Yeah. Probably is that a better idea?
No, it's not. Get a little. Okay, can you tilt the radio at an angle where? Well, I don't know if that'll help or not.
Because I have a very small thumbnail view of the radio, so I'm unable to.
Well, but we can see. We can see it there now. Now we can see it perfect. I see it good now. Yeah.
Okay. So this is 7.50, and
right.
I'm tuning to about 50 kilohertz here.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, when I hit the bottom part, it starts going down. See that?
Oh, okay. It
so now I'm at 7.2. I'm tuning around, and then I can go further down.
Okay, so it automatically, when you got to the end, it automatically went down, and it allowed you to tune through the range again.
Yeah.
So how what kind of frequency can you go from 5 megs to 14 megs with this, or?
Yeah, for the multi-band, I actually have another switch, which is there even in this in the Radio Know sketch, where you could hold the switch down and then tune around to 30 megahertz. So it actually gives a fairly large range, especially if you couple that with a push button, where you could push the button and then tune around to the band that you want to.
Okay, so it comes with the software that's in there, the sketch or whatever you call it. It sets the VFO, it sets it for our lower sideband, and you said, I think you had mentioned to me that the code was written in there for the RIT, for RIT, but there's no button, and a person could put a button on the box and actually have that function. And I know all this code is open source, and people can modify and change the code to make different pins do different things. But so what all will the radio Red Uno do right now? What do you have built into it?
So I have actually on the chat room posted a link to the source code of the Radio Know, and actually in that you can see that there is code to do CW, there is code to do receiver incremental tuning, and there is also code to have two VFOs, VFO-A and VFO-B, and the ability to switch between those two. So that
So,
all code
so,
is actually down there in the sketch.
so you've got two VFOs. Can you work split?
Yeah.
You can work split.
No,
No?
right now the ability to do split is not being put into the code, but I would imagine that anyone can take this code and
Sure.
very easily put the split capability into
And
this.
and you
as well.
mentioned CW. Is that part functioning with the new Radio Uno?
Well, yes, except that you have to add those resistors and capacitors, and for CW to switch between the receive and transmit on key down will require you to rewire the PTT.
Yeah.
So the PTT right now comes directly from the mic. Instead of it, now it'll have to come from Arduino. You have to take a line and put a transistor in on the PTT line to switch on the PTT of the main board.
Okay, that's simple.
And-
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Hey, that's great news.
Yeah. So I mean, all this is there in the software. I've written a little more in the software than what the board supports right now, but just adding a couple of resistors and capacitors here and there, and a couple of components thrown in would actually make it work much better. And all these features would be up there.
Now you've got a YouTube, as I mentioned earlier, that talks about the troubleshooting. I guess that's the receiver, where you take a little screwdriver
Right.
and you touch the different
Yeah.
stages, and you can hear the noise. And it's a very easy way to troubleshoot the stages. Are you doing a video on troubleshooting the transmitter?
Yes, I am actually. I've been thinking about it. I just want to come out with something which is extremely simple way of doing the testing there as well. The key thing really is to be able to measure RF voltages going out, and I think I can't imagine any other way of doing it simply except to use an RF probe
Right.
and a dummy load. So it would have to include how to make a very simple,
RF probe.
Yeah. But once I mean, what we do around here is I use my Riggle oscilloscope to do the testing, but all people who have these boards do not have the luxury of having an oscilloscope in the shack. So
Right.
the idea is to, allow to make that RF probe, which could be used later on for other projects as well, and use that to, troubleshoot
Sure.
the
Yeah.
transmit portion. So I would guess in about, a week's time, I would have that video up. and about.
Here's a question. Let me get to it before I forget it. Is there any way that you might come up to Hamvention this year?
I'm not, I'd love to, but I mean, this is a sort of a side project of mine. I'm actually working on a couple of other things. I hope, I do get the time. I'd love to. There are, a number of people I have to meet who are on my list of people to meet, I'd like to catch up with them. There are a lot of my friends, there are a lot of my mentors who are, especially there in the FDIM more than the Dayton convention itself. So I am looking forward to being able to take some time out, but I'm not really sure right now. I don't have any firm plans of being able to make it there, but I'd really love to do that.
Okay. Hey, here's a question. Well, we can talk all night, but you probably have places to go today, right? Yeah. Okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a friend on our group, our Facebook group, that you may have seen it. He thinks he blew up or short-circuited the transmitter. His transmitter's not working in his BITX40.
Okay.
I think he says the Q. I don't know if it's Q13 or one of those right before the final. He said it gets very, very hot.
Right. Q13. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He said it gets very hot, and there's almost no heat, I guess, on the final, and he's getting very, very, very little output. And what else did he say? It's running about 15 milliamps PA current all the time now. It just doesn't go up. The PA runs about 15 mils. He thinks,
regardless of whatever happens to the remaining stages, the PA bias should be able to go up to 100 milliamps on your own when you, crank up the bias. So if that's not going up, it essentially means that the IRF 510 has packed up. Okay. The other thing is that there are, it's like this. If the receiving portion is working, you can be pretty much confident that the transmitter is working up to the bandpass filter, because it's the same doggone circuit, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
that. So beyond that, probably I should do that immediately. You should be able to check up the DC voltages around the pre-driver, driver, and the IRF 510 transistors. I should note it down somewhere, probably on the BITX hacks blog or somewhere, of what voltages to expect around those transistors. So you could probably know which of those transistors is actually blown.
Well, yeah, if that transistor is getting red hot, it's probably bad, don't you think?
The Q13,
Yeah.
actually, come to think of it, I suspect that the emitter bias resistor of the Q13 may not be able to take up the amount of power which goes through that through that resistor. So it might be good to check what the emitter voltage is,
Yeah.
compared to the base. I think the base should be about around 3.5 to 4 volts on the base of Q13. Let me actually just look at it. If I just
Yeah.
look at it, it'll come back to me. So if you could, just go through those, then it would be, it'll give at least a pointer to where the problem might lie.
Is that the R? Is that? Well, I don't know. I'm looking at your diagram. That's not the RF amps. Are you looking? Is that one of the RF amps or the final, or what are you talking about?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the pre-driver, which is the Q13. So there's a 100 ohms on the Q13, right? And that should
Yeah, yeah.
have approximately about 3.5 volts there through the 100 ohms resistor. 3.5 volts through the 100 ohms resistor would actually make it about 200 milliwatts or so of power. I mean, we'll have to do some mental calculations
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
which might be a little too much for that small resistor there, because it's a small SMD resistor, and it's quite possible that that resistor has packed up. So it might be a good idea to doubly check on that.
Okay. Well, I'll have him check it.
Yeah.
I don't think it could be anything really serious. There's not that much in there. It's very simple circuitry.
Yeah, exactly. And just those extra 3 transistors, the pre-driver, driver, and the IRF 510, which is unique to the transmit. So if the receiver is working, you can be almost sure that the transmit is working up to Q13, and then you just need to debug those 3 transistors. It's a fairly simple circuit, as you're saying.
So he thinks that maybe he turned the current up too much on that PA bias adjustment. Is that likely to damage it if you go too high?
Of course, yeah. I mean, the IRF 510 can very easily pack up if you've left the bias on for a long time. I mean, I have left the bias on at 1 amps continuous for a couple of seconds, but the heat sink is actually really too small to absorb that. So if you're putting 1 amp through the IRF 510 for a long time, that's about 12 watts. That's more than what my soldering iron takes, right? So it's going to get pretty hot, and it might actually blow up.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Wow. It's hey, we're at 9:30. It's been a very interesting talk. There will be questions that come in all the time. I would imagine we probably will need to end this in a minute. I'm guessing you may have to go to work or do something today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's say you guys are on 30-minute time zone, right? So it's what, 10 a.m. there now?
It's 9 a.m. now. It's
No,
9 a.m.
it's the other way. It's 9 a.m. Okay, it's 9:30 p.m. here.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Well, again, here's another question that came in. Do you expect to offer the BITX 40 in a multi-band receiver? I don't think you are, right? Not a multi-band receiver. Well, you said you're working on a multi-band rig.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah. We, last year I did a multi-band version of BITX, and for lack of any other creative inspiration, called it HF1. The circuit is, floating around somewhere on the internet. but I need to clean it up and put it back, as I was saying. I'm just trying to tweak the design a little more, make it a little more minimal. So let's see. Probably would be out. As I said, it's a dual conversion job, and it's actually doing pretty well. In fact, I don't know if you see that, but I can show it to you here.
It's cool.
I don't know. If you see that,
Yeah.
and it's all ugly.
Hey, that's the way I like to build. But I think a person could make a mistake and try to put this in too small of a box. If you try to put in too small a box, I tell you, you're going to learn fast that you want to add something to it, and you're going to not have the space.
Yeah. So this is actually sort of in production. I'm using this all the time now. It's a very nice transceiver, and my whole thing is that in my shack there's just one transceiver, which is my FT817, which is store bought, so to say, which is commercially made transceiver, but everything else here is homebrew. So I wanted to eliminate the FT817, and the only reason I kept it around was that it provided me with a general coverage more than anything else. So it's my personal goal to eliminate the FT817. I love the rig, but I'd like to keep the entire shack completely homebrew.
There was a question: is there any real reason to put it in a metal box, or is plastic okay?
It's preferable to put it in a metal box, because then the spurs are much lower. That's pretty well established, that you put it into a metal box and the signal it doesn't pick up the strays, which it can do in a plastic box. But I've used both, and they work about the same at my QTH, because there are no powerful shortwave transmitters around Hyderabad. So, nor are there any hams running QRO very close to my QTH. But I would guess that elsewhere it would make a difference to put it into a metal box, especially when it comes to the thermal stability. It's much better if it's inside a metal box.
Okay. Well, Farhan, I've really enjoyed talking to you tonight, and everybody in the chat room is just really excited about this, and have really enjoyed the discussion tonight. So I'd like to get you back on here again, maybe next month or sometime, and let's do it again, and maybe we talk a little bit more detail. Would you be interested in coming back at a later date?
Of course, it would be my pleasure. It's great to be in real-time interaction with other radio hams, because most of the time one gets to only interact with each other on the email. So it's been real fun, and it's a hobby at the end of the day, and it's, I think, great to sync up with people who share that passion.
All right, the internet is just starting to get bad again. I'm not hearing you, Farhan. Maybe you can turn your camera off, and that might bring you back.
I'll do that. Okay.
But you've had a beautiful you've had a beautiful picture the last 5 minutes or so. But it seems like the internet is kind of up and down, and your audio came through perfect during all the questions. I didn't open the phone line up tonight. We only take one call at a time, and there were so many coming in the chat room. I think we were probably better taking them that way. But this show is recorded, and it's on our YouTube channel, and it'll be out there forever. So there will be a lot of people that watch this tomorrow that couldn't watch tonight.
Yeah, it's a fairly good turnout. I can see a lot of friends here, and I'd like to say a very good day and a good night to everybody. And thanks so much, Tom, for inviting me here, following up your webcasts for a long time. Yours and the Sherwood Engineering are the two webcasts that I really look forward to.
Okay, well, we're glad to have you, and just keep checking in on that Facebook group, and you'll see what's going on with everybody as we build this. And I'm sure there'll be questions, and we'll get you back in here in about a month or so. After I get my other unit, get it in a pretty box, I might show it here in about a month.
Okay, Tom. 73 to everybody, and hope to see you guys down the log.
Okay, very good, Farhan. Thank you very much. Hope we didn't get you up too early this morning. 73. Maybe we'll talk to you on the BITX 40 one day. 73. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
All right. So I think that was a good discussion. It's 9:40 almost, so I thought we needed to probably end that. I think we could probably have talked to Farhan for another couple hours. So we'll plan another show here in 3 or 4 or 5 weeks and get him back on here. I know by that time a lot of you guys will also have received your kit or your radio, and you will have started building it. And we'll probably have some questions. And again, Ron, PA3 FAT has been really, really helpful in, especially with me and others in developing the code for the BITX 40 that we're using. So his code wouldn't necessarily work in the one that Ron's sending because, all your wiring and everything has to match the code. But all this code is open source, and people, will take parts of this code and parts of that code and put it together and make it do all the kind of things you want to. So it's just a great little experimental radio. It's not a real kit, but you can kind of make it like a kit and enjoy expanding on it and building with it. So too bad we couldn't get him in here for the whole show on video, but we're having terrible connection with India there, and his audio did come through, I think, pretty good. So let's see, where's Ron's code? Ron's code is available on our Facebook group, W5KUB Facebook group. If you just go up the top under files, you will see that under files, and you can download it. So let me do a couple things here, and we'll be back in just a minute with a couple of other things. Let me see what I can do here. Stand by, everybody. Welcome, 2017. Are you in need of a good New Year's resolution? How about improving your listening skills? ICOM has an array of radios to help you stick to your resolution all year long. Base stations, mobile transceivers, handhelds, and more. ICOM has all the equipment to make 2017 the best year yet. Coming soon, the ICR 8600 will bring your listening skills to a new level. Start the new year right with this new communications receiver. This radio has ultra-wide frequency coverage, a real-time spectrum scope, and a large 4.3-inch touch screen display. Now available, the ID51A Plus 2 provides new models for extended D-Star coverage. Available in 5 colors, the ID51A Plus 2 allows you to listen wherever you may go. Features include terminal and access mode, send and receive text messages and pictures, DV fast data mode, and an easy FM repeater setting. And for the contester on the go, try the IC7300. It's a high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design. The real fun starts here. It has RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, a large 4.3 color touchscreen, real-time spectrum scope, and an SD memory card slot. Visit www.icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on ICOM radios. All right, and we're back, and just a couple announcements here. We're probably off shortwave by now. I haven't been able to watch the chat room. Robert up at WBCQ. Lord Robert, if you're listening, you can turn the transmitter off. The official show has ended now. You may have already turned it off. I don't know. Normally we run for about an hour and a half, and we ran a little over tonight. But thank you, Robert, for doing what you do for us up there. If you are still on shortwave, or if you just joined us, we welcome you. This is an amateur radio roundtable, and it's every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That's 0200 UTC Wednesdays. For you international people. If you are out there and you heard us on shortwave, send us an email to tom@w5kub.com, tom@w5kub.com, and send us a signal report. Let us know where you are. And our guest tonight was Ashar Farhan, VU2ESE. He's the man behind, one of the men behind the BITX40. And what we have to remember, the BITX40, as Farhan has said, it's been around 10 or 12 years. There's been different people, a lot of different people that have worked on different pieces of this. And I think it's kind of like Arduino, the code. It's kind of open source, and, people just grab parts and build things. And I think that's how this little radio came about. But there's a picture of the radio right there if you're just tuning in. It is so well built, and that's the entire radio right there. And they were charging $45 for it, and the only problem with that was it had some drift, and it had an internal VFO on it. So he's now supplying the Arduino VFO with the liquid crystal display and the frequency synthesizer and all that for $59. That's $14 more. And I tell you, you couldn't even buy the parts. If you tried to buy an Arduino and the SI5153, the LCD, and all that, you couldn't even buy it for $14. So it really didn't increase the price any. So it's a neat little radio right there. I'm looking forward to getting my new version with his display in it. As mentioned, there's mine. It looks kind of bad right now. It's built into a DirecTV satellite receiver, but that's the VFO that we built with the Arduino and the SI5351 and Ron PA3 FAT. Helped get all the code working in there, and we're having a lot of fun with it. So let me see. We're going to do Hangout tonight. I will turn Hangout on and see if anybody wants to join us. I know it's getting late, but let me see if I can get Hangout on here. We'll be right back with you. Don't go away. All right, I think I about got Hangout up. Looks like we had a good turnout tonight. Pretty good turnout. Probably one of our better turnouts that we've had in weeks. So I think there's a lot of interest in this. Let's see who's in Hangout. Let me see if I can join here. So we had a good turnout. Pretty good turnout. Somebody has their video. Oh. Let me. All right, I see Jolty. Hey, Jolty down in India. How you doing, Jolty? Jolty, can you hear me? Bill number.
Hi, Tom.
Bill number 2. Hi, how you doing? I see Jim in here. Hey, Jim, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
Doing good there. And who we got? John. John. Who's John? Do I know John? John. I don't know what John that is. There's John's not talking to us. There's Jolty. Jolty, how you doing down in India, man? Talk to me from India. Maybe Jolty can't hear me. I'll send him some sign language. Did you get that, Jolty?
Good, thank you. It was a very interesting show, Tom.
I thought it was a good show, and it was talked to Farhan for hours and hours. I talked to him an hour yesterday, and it's just really interesting, you know. So let's see. We've got is that Randy in there? I see somebody with a beard.
Yeah, it's me.
Oh, hey Randy, how you doing, man?
Good, doing good.
Thanks for the email about that that amplifier and the way they're setting a bias on it. I think you sent me an email.
Yeah, I don't think that was me.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay. Well, I don't know who it was. I get confused, and I'm hearing some noise. Let me see if I can find the culprit that's coming from. Can't tell. Let me adjust my picture here a little bit. There we go. Then maybe people can see us better out there. All right. I don't know who sent it. Somebody. All right,
Somebody must have kept his chat. The other.
I see.
We'll need to end this in a minute.
Okay, Neil. Neil.
Go to work or do something today.
Yeah, Neil. Turn the audio down on the webcast.
30-minute time zone, right? So it's what 10 a.m.
You need to mute the audio on the webcast.
Oh, it's the other way. It's 9 a.m.
Yeah, okay, he muted his mic. Yeah, Neil, we're getting feedback. The show is 30 seconds later than the Skype the Hangout is, so just mute the audio on the webcast. Okay, Farhan came on. Very kind of you to invite me on the show. Well, we're going to invite him back again. You know, I wish we had a little bit better internet connection with him, but I don't know, man. Something between here and India wasn't cooperating tonight.
Well, I think I need to talk to Farhan. I think when he comes on the show, put only in a dedicated line. If somebody else is logged into it, you get this problem.
Oh, really? Yeah. You think there are other people there at his location using it?
Yeah, because if he's in a Wi-Fi network and if somebody else is also watching something, the bandwidth gets does happen.
Yeah. Well, we got Mike in here. What is that? CG3 MIC talking about the 50-watt RF amplifier. Someone else had sent me an email. I don't think it was Mike, but someone else sent me an email about that. And what they did, they built some type of transistor regulator or bias adjustment that they put in a power supply to keep that final from going bad. Okay, so let's see, Neil. Neil, talk to us. Where are you?
Hey, gentlemen. I've never used this technology before, so
That's all right.
I apologize for having stomped on you all here previously.
That's okay. Not a problem at all.
How do you copy?
Well, you're coming in about 10 over S9 here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you.
With a little QRM. I don't know where the QRM's coming from. I'm trying to find out who's causing it. I don't know. Well, where are you located, Neil? And have you tuned into the show before?
I have not. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the reason I signed on today was because of my interest in the BitX40. So that caught my attention on Facebook, and I thought I'd sign in tonight to hear the expert talk about his design. So I found that very, very interesting.
Yeah, he's a sharp guy, and he knows his stuff. And that BITX 40 is such a simple radio to do all it does, and it's just amazing. We've got a lot of people on here that are building it, that are following the show here.
Yeah, I have one that is the original V3 that's analog, and I've got one in the mail coming to me that's got the Raduino DDS upgrade. So I'll be building both versions and checking those out.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put it together just like it comes to me. This first one that we did, we pretty much did all the extra stuff ourselves. I'm getting noise back. I'm not sure who it's coming from. I think that's coming from you, Neil. Do you have the show turned down? Neil, do you have the audio muted on the show?
Yes. I don't think that's me.
Okay. I'm looking at the little lights. Let's see. And it may be just Skype, or not Skype. It may be Hangout doing that. Sometimes when a person gets a bad connection, it does that. And I'm looking at the lights. Usually you can tell who it's coming from. Test 1, 2. I don't see it. Anybody?
I'm going to mute out and we'll see if it's me.
Yeah, mute it out. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. It got a lot better. It got a whole lot better. I hear a little bit of something. Hey, Neil, you might just hang up and call back. And many times that fixes the problem, if it is a problem. All right. Someone's breathing in the mic, they said. Well, I don't know. It don't look like Bill's breathing, so I don't think it's him. Somebody just had a crash in a car, it sounds like. So, John, man, how you doing, John? Well, John's not going to talk to us tonight. Randy, jump in here, Randy. Say hi.
Hi there. I've unmuted my mic,
okay.
so I hope
Okay, cool.
I'm coming through here.
Cool.
Crank this up a little bit. So yeah, it was a good show. I ordered my BITX 40 on the 23rd of December.
Now,
I got a shipping notice on the 27th.
So which one are you getting? I think by then that would be the new one, right? The Radio
Yes.
Uno.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the DDS version. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I've been studying it. I got the schematic printed out here, and
Yeah.
there was somebody on the Yahoo group this afternoon who wanted to know where to put an LED for a transmit indicator. So I said, put it across the relay. So
Yeah.
Yep.
All kinds of things you can do to it there. Well, if anybody has questions about it, they ought to check my first contact video that I made with it where I work South Africa. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's amazing. The 3 QSOs you've made are all been to South Africa to the same guy. Do you have a path anywhere else?
Well, I got the antenna turned exactly broadside to South Africa, and my secret is, I've got it. I've got a formula to get it the exact height to make it a beam, and it's just a single wire. So, and I use some extra frequency grease and stuff like that on it.
Oh, very good. It works.
Yeah, and like I say, that's only 3 contacts I've made with it. But I just recently got it in my box here, and I was breaking it apart. As we were developing it and designing all the parts, I'd carry it around and with all the parts hanging by the wires, and I was actually breaking wires off and having to resolder, and that wasn't much fun.
Yes, I've thought a little bit about how I'm going to try and put it together, at least initially to start with. So at the dollar store, I got this little cutting board. So I figured I could mount it on there with some of the extra pieces just to keep it together on the bench. And also at the dollar store, I found this little drawer organizer. So it's a little tray thing.
Yeah.
So I thought I could turn it upside down and mount the boards on there and maybe cut a hole for the display and, something to kind of, keep it together while I'm playing with it. And then figure out the packaging later on. Because one of the things I'd like to try and do is use it on like PSK 31 and JT 65 and
Yeah, and it would,
get one of those little cheapy USB sound card USB sticks,
yeah,
and just you could mount that right inside the box with it, and just feed a USB cable and have your audio. And it was in QST a couple months ago, and I think if you build up about a 1 transistor circuit, you can build a Vox, so when the sound card kicks in, you can make it go into transmit, kind of a poor man's signal link.
yeah. I mean, your mind is your limit about all the different things you can do with this thing.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about once I get all the parts there wired together, drop it down in like a gallon jar and fill it up with epoxy, and just bring the wires out.
as soon as you do that, you'll want to change something.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to have to run here. So it's been a great show tonight. Enjoyed being on, and you did a great job.
Well, thanks. Boy, your video's good, man. We need to get you on a show here more often with that, man. I mean, you got all kinds of stuff you can show us.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have you on here one night and turn it over to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been playing around with some and with some Arduino projects. I've got one here. It's been a while since I turned the thing on. But I've got this old
meter.
this old milliamp meter,
Yep,
and
yeah.
I'm using it for a thermometer. So I got a little temperature sensor IC,
Oh, that's cool.
and I read that, and then I use the the pulse width modulation output, and it drives the meter just fine. So
Yeah.
I want to do some other tweaks to this, maybe get a humidity sensor and have it display both. And I've been thinking about if I drill some holes around here, I may be able to put in a couple of those Neo pixels and have the meter glow red for temperature and blue for humidity or something. So got some things I'm thinking about.
Oh yeah. Hey, Mark Pupo on the chat room. I was talking about fill a gallon jar up with epoxy. He came up with a better idea. Just fill it up with oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just fill it up with oil, and that way if I need to change the part out, I can just lift it out of there.
Yeah.
Might even be able to throw a resistor in there and use it for a dummy load.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
Yeah, it seems like I remember seeing one of those things about 50 years ago.
I think I had the original one with the cancer stuff in it,
Yeah.
back in the 60s.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
All right, I'm going to buzz off, and I'll see you guys later.
Okay, Randy, come on back, man. We'll look forward to seeing you again.
Okay, good night all.
All right, good night. All right, let's get the Ooper check in. We're calling hangout for any Oopers out there. We're looking for Oopers, or is it uppers? Ooper? Come on. Can't even get an Ooper to say anything. What do you think about that, Bill?
I don't know, Mike. Are you going to say something to us tonight, or what?
He's not talking.
Mike.
His mic's not on or something. But his wife, they took his microphone away. All right, hey, all right, Mike. I don't know if you hear me. Hey, are you getting that, Mike? Did you get that? Well, he's going to be useless tonight. He left us. Maybe the connection. Yeah. Hey, you got any snow up there in Massachusetts?
We had snow. I think it was Thursday into Friday, and then it got cold, and then Sunday evening it rained. Yesterday it rained. Today it rained. Tomorrow,
We
it's a
back
good
here
day.
now?
There he is. There's
Oh, I
the
can
there's
hear you. There's the guy from the UP.
there's
Ah,
the Uber.
Oh, yeah.
There's
I
the
didn't know
Uber.
my mic wasn't working. All right.
There's the Uber.
That happens every now and then. What I got to do is I just got to go out and come back in. So.
Well, I said a few things to you in sign language. I don't know if you copied it or not.
Well, that's all right. I'm still sitting here listening. I wasn't
Okay.
putting things. You know.
All right.
It's,
Well, I think Thursday and Friday here it's supposed to get really cold, and they're predicting maybe some snow here. You know, I think we might get upwards to maybe a half inch. Boy, I'll tell you what. I need to go to the store tomorrow, get the bread, get the milk. You know,
oh yeah.
put the chains
yeah.
on it. Well, I say put the chains on the tires and.
Don't forget the rock salt.
Yeah. Rock salt. Need to throw some extra weight in the back of my pickup so I get good traction. And oh man, it's going to be tough. You know, if that happens, that's going to last about 3 or 4 hours. I mean, it is flat going to be just tough out here.
You poor guy. Hey, we're at 23 degrees now. It's been snowing out here. My goodness. Hey, at 23 degrees, it's warm out here for us right now.
It's 47 here now, so you can see it's getting cold.
Oh, my goodness. Cold. I start running around with shorts.
Yeah, Kurt asked, snow near Memphis? Yeah, Kurt, they're predicting a little bit of snow, maybe, you know, half inch, nothing just really, really deep, you know. I mean, you know, if it got 4 or 5 inches, I mean, that'd be really, really deep. So they're not predicting anything deep here.
Yeah, I got my cross-country skis in the back of my truck. My snowshoes are in the back of the truck. We're all ready for snow here. We need more than a couple inches.
Okay, it says, where do I put the thing for Hangout? I'm not sure what one DWG is saying. Where does he put the thing for Hangout? There's a link to click on. Let me give you that link again. It's up in the
just gave it
top.
to him.
Did you? Okay.
In the chat room there.
Okay, it's hard for me to try to find it during the show here. We had a pretty good turnout tonight. We had over 100 people in the room tonight, which was a good turnout. Were the internet connections at the beginning, was it just really, really bad, or did it straighten out okay once we turned this video off?
There was a couple of instances where there was a lull, but you know, it may have been just the internet in general.
Yeah. Well, I think the trouble. Hey, who knows where it was, but we didn't drop any. We've dropped 0 packets here on the broadcast. We've been on 2 hours. We've been on at least 2 hours here and haven't dropped a single packet. So I think our internet's done okay, but we kept getting a message on the Skype connection that there was a problem.
I think Bill N4ERD said that if you drop the video, that the bandwidth would increase for the actual audio system to transmit through.
Yeah, and that's what we did. We finally just turned the video off, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, I missed your first part of the show. I was busy. I didn't get it in, so I guess I'm going to have to go and watch it on Memorex.
Okay. Now, Mark P saying mine says 169/352450. What is that, Mark? I don't know what you're talking about. Don't know what he's talking about. Mark, what do you got going there? 169/352450. Don't know what that is.
Telephone number?
Hey guys, that's what we ought to do. We ought to make up a secret code for just us and Hangout here, you know, with numbers. You know, like when you were a kid.
Oh, he says that you dropped 169 frames.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. I show 0 frames dropped here. Of course, it may have dropped, and I don't know. But anyway, that's cool. I guess 169 frames is not many. Oh, that's 169 out of 352,450 is what that is. Okay. Hey, you know what we need to do on Hangout, guys? like when we were kids, and you know, open the cereal box and get the code decoder ring out. We need to make us a code. We need to make us a code on here that we can talk code on here, where the people watching the webcast don't know what we're saying. You know, if we had something really secret we need to say.
We could always send it in CW.
Yeah, well,
that wouldn't do me no good.
Well, you know, I mean, we could, but I don't know. So, okay, Neil, what's Neil doing here? He got, what is that Neil's got? Is that a cat?
It looks like yeah.
I couldn't tell what it is. I'm looking at his little bitty picture. Oh, that wasn't Neil. That was, oh yeah, there he is.
She took off. She was not interested in partaking in the conversation. She's a cat and she's 5, so I call her my Cat 5 connection.
Oh, okay, the Cat 5. Well, let me tell you, Glenn Popel, I don't know if he's still in here or not, the author of the Arduino book, friend of mine down in Mississippi. He's got a bunch of cats, and they were in his lab, and he's doing all this building and writing for the book, and had the show on one night, and we just implemented our call-in, but we couldn't control the ringtone, and it was like 100 decibels, man, when the phone rang on everybody. And his cats jumped, and they threw all his parts and stuff all over the floor. I don't think they come back in there now when the show's on.
Yeah, well, they do that. They certainly do that. I've got to lock her out of the room when I've got loose parts. Otherwise, I've got a big problem, and she doesn't know not to stay away. But that's the price you pay for companionship.
Well,
I got divorced years ago, and I got the cat, and instead of a wife, I have the cat. So that was a pretty good trade.
Yeah, well, I guess that wasn't bad. That wasn't bad.
Oh boy.
No, I won't go there anymore. So we'll leave it at that.
So hey, Neil, hey, it was great you joining the show tonight. Hope you'll come back again on next Tuesday and follow the show some. We've got a lot of neat things we're doing here, and also
I definitely will. I've been off Facebook for a while, so I got back on Facebook, and I saw the W5KUB page, got signed up, and
okay, good.
Of course, got interested right away. So I've only been a ham for 2 years.
Okay.
I'm 55. I'm a late bloomer, and I'm just getting started in ham radio, so I'm having a good time. I've always been kind of a kit builder kind of person, and I'm having a good time. So my big objective now is learning CW. My voice doesn't hold up well. My hearing's not good. And my primary goal is learning and using CW almost exclusively. So I'm trying to come up to speed on that. And we'll use CW instead of phone, hopefully.
Well, you know, I've been a ham for 53 years now. And that's back in those days. You started out as a novice. You had to learn the code. And then they got the general and then the extra class license. And, you know, now you don't have to have the code, of course, to get your ham license, but I still enjoy the code a little bit. And I don't use it very much, but I can do code, you know, pretty good. Not to have used it in a long time. I can probably still do 13, 14, 15 words a minute, maybe.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, I owe it to the hobby as a sign of respect to learn the code. I know it's not required, but I consider it the native tongue. It is the native tongue, and it's quite interesting. I have an iambic keyer, and I'm finding it a very interesting musical instrument. I'm relating it very much to music, and I'm having a good time with that. So that's kind of where I'm heading with that. I am an extra, and I kind of feel obligated to at least be able to speak the code a little bit. I think it's the least cool. I owe you folks that have been in the hobby for 30, 40, 50 years to come on in and learn some of the things that you've had to learn along the way. So it's a matter of respect, I think, to use the code.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, that's good.
I got my extra, but I didn't use the 20 words a minute. I got my extra just after they dropped the code, so I didn't have to take that 20 words. But I couldn't copy five words a minute right now. I struggle with code. Dits and dahs were just too hard. I basically made it through my novice. I barely made it through my general. And, well, it's not, you know, you like code, go ahead. I just struggle with it, and I just can't get into a conversation with dits and dahs. So that's the one nice thing about this hobby. Some like this, some like building, some like satellite, some like this, some like ready. You know, it's like HFDX. It's, you know, there's a niche for whatever you want to do.
There's a lot going on.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm glad
Well,
you joined. I'm glad you joined the Facebook group. Last I looked, we were about 20 people short of reaching 5,000. I don't know what the number is tonight on the Facebook group, but I've been anxiously waiting to see when we hit the 5,000 number in the group.
Well, that's impressive. I'll be back next week. I wanted to thank you for running a great show, and had a great topic and a great speaker tonight. And I wanted to just say 73 and wish everybody a good week. And it's been nice meeting you all.
Dill, I missed where you were at.
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
In the Great Desert Southwest.
Oh, a little warmer than I am here in Michigan. I'm in Michigan's Upper Peninsula in Marquette, right on the southern shore of Lake Superior. So you're a little warmer there than I am.
Yeah, we get a little snow, but I've been to the UP. Well, I haven't been there in the winter. I have family in Detroit, and we've traveled up a little bit into the UP. I've been to the Sioux Locks, and seen the ships go up and down, and I've kind of mostly stayed in the lower part. I've been to Traverse City and seen the Cherry Festival and that kind of stuff. That's the warm part of Michigan, right?
Yeah, that's below that bridge. We stay north up here in the UP. Hi, us Upers, we all stay up here up north. Where you gone north of the bridge? Eh?
I don't understand the language. I'll need an interpreter when I go up there next. So, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure meeting you, and we'll talk again. We'll see you downstream.
All
Everyone
right,
have
all
a
right.
good night.
Thanks for joining. All right, we'll see you.
Okay, take care.
Hey guys, I want to show you something here, man. Look what Mark P sent me. Let me put a camera on here. Look what Mark P sent me, man. Look at there. You remember my background? It used to have the red phone, red hotline. Now I can set this there, and I can actually take calls on my red hotline. What do you think?
I don't know.
I'm missing your video.
Yeah, we're not seeing you, Tom.
You're not seeing me.
There it is. Wow.
No, wait.
That's a great piece.
Wait a minute. Has my video not been on the whole time?
No, all we've been seeing is you and your right hand.
Not on Hangouts.
Oh, let me see
Still
what's
on
going on here. I didn't have video back to India either, so let's see. That should be working.
We got your hard hat Mars shot.
Yeah, it should be.
Hangout.
That should be working. Let's see. Don't know.
I know you're up moving cables around there when you were trying to get the Skype in there just before you went on the air.
Well, they're seeing me on a webcast. It's just I'm not feeding my video back into Hangout. And
yeah, I went back and looked at the webcast just now. I got to another page, and I can see you sitting there. But,
okay.
I don't have the volume on.
No wonder you didn't answer me when I sent sign language to you. You didn't see me. Man, let me see here. Yeah, I gotta get this thing fixed. I don't know what's going on here. You test everything before the show, and then right at showtime, something don't work.
Yeah, I did see you. You did a video because I could see you. Yeah, I mean, you weren't hearing me at first, and I could see you I could hear you, and I had no problem hearing you. You just weren't hearing me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember you being up in the right hand corner up there.
Let's see. I gotta make this thing work. Well.
Well, we all know what you look like.
Let's see what that does. Yeah.
You got too many knobs and keys there, Tom.
Let's see what that does. Let's see. I got way too many. Let's see, Wirecast. Well, that's the one thing I got to put on my list to get working for next week.
Oh, there's another face.
That's Jim.
Hi, Jim.
I I think my flex looks better than I do, so I kind of hide myself.
Well, it went dink, dink, or dink. That's terrible.
Somebody's thinking.
That was me. That's terrible. It says I got the. Wait a minute. See what that does. That didn't do anything either.
You have almost as many computers as I do.
Well, I've got a few here in the house. I mean, I working ones, I may have 15 here in the house. When we'd go out and do these webcasts of like Dayton and stuff, I'd always take about 10 or 15 laptops with me. That way, if we dropped one or if it rained in one, we just grab another one, you know.
Oh, I want to thank you for that update there on the Hamvetch in there. I went and I checked that out there the other day after you posted that link.
Mark P. told me about that. Mark lives up in Kettering, and he follows that a lot. He told me we were on there. All right. This is not good. All right, I'm gonna trace a cable real quick. I'll be right back.
Uh-oh.
Well, if we
All right, guys, he's
disappear,
gone. We can talk about it.
if we disappear, we know what's going to happen.
Just don't get down on the floor. You might not get back up. Or it'll hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I had to crawl around my truck and move some cables around for my cell phone, and oh man, like I'm not 14 doing mobile installs in sports cars anymore. This hurts.
Yeah, well, he'll get it figured out.
You got back up. Off to the supply cabinet for more stuff.
I'll have to see if I can get up there tomorrow. I put the skates back on tomorrow night, so I'll have to.
It looks like you got cold air coming through up there. Or at least that's what the new. Yeah, well, I'm watching the weather here.
That's what they're telling us. My daughter sent some stuff on Facebook from North Dakota yesterday, early this morning, about the weather they're having in Grand Forks, and what she gets there today, we get tomorrow.
Oof, Grand Forks. Been there, done that. Nice place. We had snow on the Bay Area hills. Didn't stick around for more than a couple hours, but when we get snow in the Bay Area down to 2,500 feet, that's a dangerous tourist attraction for all the foreigners out here. You want to drive their kids up these mountain roads and have them make a snowball. And, if you come from some country that's never had snow, and you've never been on a mountain road before, I can just imagine how many people CHP was tow trucking out of a ditch.
Yeah, it gets interesting up here with the university, and we really used to get interesting when the air base was open 15 miles south of town here. They get these Air Force guys transferred here for the first time in their life. They never were in snow, and they got transferred to the base here, and it was an interesting time. We did a lot of calling records for them to get them on the ditch.
Oh yeah. Well, I grew up in Wisconsin. You got your driver's education in the parking lot in the ice.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they don't know what it's like. You guys with no snow, the spin donuts.
Yeah. Which way to turn the wheel, and it's different if you have a front wheel drive car and everything else. So.
Yeah.
Well, if it rains out here in California, people just go nuts on the road. So
Yeah. They
yeah, I'm waiting
don't
for him to
mind
get out
it.
the Simpson 260 VOM to check this.
I don't mind the snow. I got my cross-country skis in the back of the truck. Like I said, I got my snowshoes in the back of the truck and my hockey sticks. So I'll put my skates on here tonight. So we just go out and play in it. Well, I guess I shouldn't say hockey. I don't do that outside. It's all indoor ice rink.
Well, that's all we got out here. We almost lost all the ice rinks in Northern California. A friend of mine's son is a champion youth hockey player, and they've been fighting to keep some of the local rinks open so they got a place to practice without having to pay exorbitant rent to the Shark Tank.
Oh yes, the hockey's big here in the UP. So, well, I'm 67 years old, so I don't chase young kids around playing league hockey anymore. I'm in the senior division.
The senior division, the experienced division.
Yeah, the ones where there's no checking or hitting allowed. We all want to be able to get back up the next morning.
Yeah.
Well,
All
there's a
my
definite
family
change on Tom's.
There's a change on Tom's
big
picture
Badger
here.
fans, so my participation in sports was making sure their color TVs stayed in proper alignment for the big games.
Yeah. Well, I think we lost Tom forever here. Looks like.
No, he's got a
It
white.
looks like his Windows 10 is up there, or at least that's what I'm saying.
He's got the white screen of death. He's missing a device somewhere.
Yeah, I did. I just popped over to the other page. Yeah. No, and now he's going behind the desk.
Again.
Oh, he's down kneeling. He's praying.
Man, am I here?
Yeah.
I can hear you, Tom.
Well, I've got a different camera shot on this one now, but on my main computer with the broadcast, I don't know what I got.
I can't show my wife this. She comes out in my office
I
and
see.
goes,
Okay,
why don't you clean your place up like Tom's? And I'd never live this down.
Oh, wait, maybe if I click there. No, I didn't do anything.
No, we got the Windows 10 background here.
Oh, let's see. What's that do?
Yeah, we got a desktop, Tom, so you just need to pop a window up.
Yeah, I'm trying. I moved some HDMI cables around, and everything's gone crazy on me here.
Oh, reboot.
Yeah.
Yeah, not fun.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, it looks like you don't have Hangouts open on that screen.
I don't know what's going on. Did I hear somebody talking about a Simpson 260 a minute ago?
Yeah, I figured you're going to be checking the Cat 5 here pretty soon.
I got a Simpson 260 up here.
Yeah,
I got
you've
one here.
probably got one of everything.
You know, that was a good meter, man. That's what my uncle used at a TV shop, 60 years ago. And okay.
I got a 260 and a 260 with the mirror in it, Air Force surplus.
Yes,
Triplet 610, which was the FET VOM we used in high school. That's a pretty cool meter. And I got from an old ham buddy of mine an RCA, the big screen Volt Almost VTVM. Nothing beats high impedance for not screwing up a circuit while you're trying to measure it. So.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, I think I just need to get off here. Something screwed up really bad. I have no control over anything on the webcast. Yeah. Okay, Mark says he can still hear audio. They're not seeing any video, so.
Yeah, we got your backside on the webcast and your audio, but.
Yeah, and on my desktop here that the broadcast runs on, my screen is gone. It left me. It's just white now. So.
Yeah, it's a white screen at death.
Mark says he still sees the webcast, so I don't know what's going on here, man.
Yeah, he's got to know that the webcast he's watching is 30 seconds behind still. Yeah.
Well, I think
Say band conditions are kind of failing.
Well, they've been down for at least a month and a half.
Yeah, I know.
I know,
People have been just nuts about, the bands have been dead.
We're having a little bit on 80 meters in the morning groups I get on, but boy, sometimes in the evening it's terrible. 40 is, wow, something else.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at 75, and there's not the usual bunch of rag chewers blowing the top off my screen here.
Yeah, there's a certain group here on 3913 they get on. They're usually booming in every day. They've been on for years. And boy, when I go there and I don't hardly hear them, it's time to turn the switch off.
Well, maybe I ought to get off the tri-bander and go to the 4080 dipole, and it might make a difference. Not much. It's kind of strange.
No, I don't think you'll see that much of a difference.
In fact, even the noise blanker is not. It's just dead. I've got a minus 110 noise floor, which just is horrible. I don't understand that. Oh, well, maybe if I tune.
Let me just check something here.
Yeah, the noise antenna's not doing much good. Wow.
Well, my monitors have switched on me.
Well, I've got good signals. My noise floor, it's not audibly noisy. It's just up. It's just up about 10 to 15 dB higher than I expected. So it's pretty strange.
Guys, I'm gonna get out of here.
I'm
gonna get out of here, and I'm just gonna shut everything down and reboot it tomorrow. My monitors got all switched.
We'll see you later,
something.
Tom.
Yeah, I'll see you later,
Pleasure.
man. We'll talk to y'all. Enjoy it tonight. We'll see you.
Okay, Tom, I'm going to do the same thing. It's going 11:30 here, so I'm going to get ready to call it a night here, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pumpkin time up there. Stay warm, man.
Yeah, that we do. Yeah.
Yep. Y'all have a good evening. We'll talk to you soon.
All right,
All right,
guys.
we'll see you.
Good chat.
All right.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Trying to figure out how
Good
to
luck,
turn this
Tom.
thing off. All right, we'll see you. Thanks. Bye. All right. So I have nothing on my screen, guys. Nothing. It's kind of hard clicking buttons when I see nothing on my screen. I think the camera's still working. Yeah, the camera's still working. All right. Well, I think I'm going to hit the power button. I'm going to have to hit the power button to turn it off.